The following is the views of MC and Jester. If you don't like our views, don't listen to our podcast.
Welcome to the podcast. Listen with Jester and MC.
All right, welcome to the podcast. Listen, this is Jester, and I'm here with MC.
Hello, guys. Part two.
And then we are also here with our special guest. Again, this is a wrestler from the Southwest, one of the greatest wrestlers coming out of the independent circuit. Excited to have him on our panel, always discussing wrestling with MC, our two wrestling fans. Please welcome Rocky.
Thank you so much for having me back on the show, Jester, MC. It's always great to talk wrestling and explain to listeners what's going on.
I think it's funny that Rocky said, thanks for having me back on the show. It's actually the same show. We just cut it up in half. Rocky is still wearing the same underwear he wore during the first episode. So Rocky's back, and Rocky is live from up north. He's in the woods. He is retired since from wrestling, and now he's a lumberjack. So if you ever need wood cutting, that's where Rocky's at. So we were just following up on the Survivor Series, and we ended last time discussing how wrestling is pretty much continue to take on the world and just keep building fans. And so I'm going to hand it back over to our wrestling panel, MC and Rocky, and let you guys go ahead with that.
Yeah, so I'll set it up here. I think more so our previous episode was State of the Industry leading into Survivor Series. So I think on this one, we're going to give you guys a recap and kind of get our actual thoughts.
Also, the last episode was discussing how we think that women, or I think that women should not be in wrestling. And so that's just my take. And I was scolded by MC that he thinks that women are the best and that they should be not only wrestling but running the country. So there you go.
Hey, I'm all. No, I wouldn't say that. Hey, if you want to go into a 1925 podcast, we can take everything back to then. But I would imagine that our listeners would dwindle probably after that.
Well, we would be doing this podcast on a piece of wood as we wrote it out, and then we would just lay it out for someone to read it.
We would carrier pigeons delivering it to all our listeners.
We'd be standing in a circle of children and people discussing it like just storytellers from back in the day as we wandered in from the future. We're like, women are wrestling.
While you burn witches at the stake, right?
They come back as wrestlers.
But yeah, we kind of busted down. I think we got into kind of the pre-show was the tag team match, Rock, right? With the, I was surprised to see the Colognes actually were still employed, and I hadn't even known that they were still on the roster, but they filled out the SmackDown tag teams, and that was the pre-show match, which we were discussing last show. That I think the Raw team was supposed to win that one, but I can't tell where they made the mistake or if there was just a miscommunication to the referee. So I don't know if you wanted to discuss any of your thoughts from that match.
Yeah, I think we covered most of it on the last show. But, for the most part, I guess during the pre-show, this was the only SmackDown victory. But according to the record books and what WWE wants you to believe, this victory did not happen. I'm not sure what the breakdown is either. I kind of want to rewatch this match just to try to see if there was a mistake, if there was like a fast ref count or anything. Yeah. But I don't remember seeing a point in time in this match. But throughout the rest of the show, I don't know if Corey Graves got any heat for this, but he kept saying, no, SmackDown won the preliminary show. And the guys are like, shut up. No, they didn't. No, that didn't happen. Like there was definitely an eerie kind of like shut up vibe. SmackDown didn't win.
I'm glad he did it. So because it didn't really insult our intelligence, at least even if he was forced to play the good cop role for the fans' sake and the other guys are supposed to play the bad cop, it was good for him to say that because the people that watched the kickoff pre-show or whatever are not stupid. We know that SmackDown won that tag team match, and they had promos on SmackDown about it. That was one of the last things. The Usos were hyping it up, so why didn't it count? Why are we supposed to just say it didn't count? That's kind of lame, if you ask me.
Oh, I completely agree. Honestly, this whole pay-per-view, the whole clean sweep thing didn't make any sense to me at all. But
Barry and SmackDown, that SmackDown and a lot of it has to do with it being a 2-hour show. It's a better paced show, so it can be tighter. The ship could be tightened up in writing and stuff. But I always have had a more of a affinity for SmackDown myself, so it sucks when year after year you see SmackDown lose.
In the past, WWE has always booked the bigger names, the bigger draws for Raw, the bigger pyro, the bigger storylines. That was the Raw stuff. Yeah. But the better wrestling and the better wrestlers were always on SmackDown. That's always how it's been billed. And now it feels like with this show, it's like now Raw has the better wrestlers and the better storyline and the bigger budget and the bigger names. SmackDown, you're just garbage. And I don't know if that's because they just sold SmackDown to Fox or what's going on with that, but that's kind of how I felt after this show was all over.
Yeah, that really just doesn't make any sense from a build-up perspective. You're trying to build this brand up. It's going to network television, so why wouldn't you want SmackDown to be strong going into network television with a gigantic contract? It makes no sense at all. I mean, you have some of the best competitors in the world. We talked about last show AJ Styles being off this card and the reason why, but that alone right there, when if you're asking fans to pay their $9.99 every month, they want to see the best wrestler in the world, and AJ Styles was not on this pay-per-view, so he lost his championship, and we'll talk about that in the main event. But going into the show, certainly the vibe is, hey, who's better, Raw or SmackDown? Well, yeah, they made a definitive statement by the end of this pay-per-view, but I polling fans and just seeing online, a lot of people weren't happy with that.
Yeah, definitely. I was one of the people that was unhappy with that. I thought, at least give them somewhat of a fighting chance, I mean,
it's silly. Just the tag match was good, though. To get back to that, the tag match was fast paced, a lot of finishers, a lot of big spots. We got a little taste of the Usos versus the Revival, which was very entertaining. So I could definitely hope to see in the future a program between them. But obviously short. The match had to be because of the amount of eliminations. But it was good to see the Usos pick up the victory. I think very underrated at times. They got their due during their stretch when they held the championship in the run, but they've really come into their own with their new look and stuff over the last few years, and they definitely have been out of the spotlight on the SmackDown for I'd say the past year or so, the better part of the last year, and it'd be good to see them hopefully get a little bit of push again, because the tags notoriously have not been Vince's favorite thing to highlight and feature on his shows. So, but tag team wrestling has always been, if you poll any fan, the fans love tag team wrestling. So whether Vince likes it or not and sees the money in it, it's a staple of his show. There always needs to be a place for tag team wrestling on the show, not as a filler, but a lot of people want to see tag team wrestling as a feature, just much like the ladies, a featured part of the show. And it's a struggle for respect for the tag team division, I'd say.
I mean, I come from an old school perspective on this. I like real tag teams. So the Usos, the Legion of Doom, the Hart Foundation, like actual tag teams. What drives me crazy and what I think really dwindles down the tag team is when you take two individual wrestlers and you put them together and you're like, now you two are a tag team. But then they come out to their own entrance music. They don't come out together. They come out separate. That's the kind of stuff that drives me crazy. When I see a tag team, I want to see a real team. I mean,
as much as I enjoy them separately, Gable and Rude just doesn't scream tag team to me, and they made it near the end of the this tag team elimination match too, and I'm not feeling that tag team. Beer Money was great when Rude was with James Storm in Impact Wrestling, and then you had Gable and Jordan as American Alpha, two great separate tag teams. You're putting them together, it's just like, I don't know. I'm not feeling that tag team. I'm feeling that hopefully it'll be a heel turn for one of them more before there's a tag team title run, I hope.
Yeah. I agree. Well, all right. So let's go into the first match of the Survivor Series. So it actually opened up with the traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series elimination match, but with the women, Team Raw versus Team SmackDown. Team Raw's was Nia Jax, Tamina, Mickie James, Sasha Banks, and Bayley, and they were captained, of all people, by Alexa Bliss. Now, is this because Alexa Bliss is coming off of a concussion? Is that the reason why she didn't actually wrestle?
Multiple concussions for Bliss, which has made her, which has sidelined her now, and that's why I think she's also in the kind of like the, I don't want to say commissioner. She's like the in charge of the women's division on Raw now too. That this obviously happened before that, but what has happened here is they're transitioning her into a kind of a figurehead of the women's division more so than a wrestler until a lot of these issues can subside for her. And as we've seen a lot of our favorites in the past, the concussions can actually prematurely end wrestlers' careers. So hopefully they'll get this taken care of. She's one of the more entertaining acts on Raw. And as you alluded to, a lot of the acts, the entertainers that are more entertaining acts and characters are on Raw. If you look at Elias, you look at Alexa Bliss, Braun Strowman, the Freaks, Brock Lesnar, all those acts, those entertainers, they're on Raw. The traditional wrestling is on SmackDown. So, and if there's one entertainer, whether Jester agrees, if he's still awake at this point, if there's one entertaining woman in this, and that's Alexa Bliss. She's actually, man or woman, she's one of the more entertaining characters on any show that WWE has right now.
So did you just say that she's a man? She's a man. You just said man or woman. So
I'd say she's better than most of the male roster as far as a character goes.
Curse you. Curse you. She is never better than the immortal Hulk Hogan. That character stands out in everybody's mind. I'm a real American. No one forgets that song. And no one forgets the Hulk Hogan or the Ultimate Warrior character. Come on. That guy made a huge impact. No one's wearing her shirt. They're wearing Ultimate Warrior shirts and Hulk Hogan shirts. To this day. Till the day.
Oh, they still do. They're legendary. For sure. But we're talking about the active roster, though.
Oh. Big Show. I like Big Show.
But yeah, this match was notable for at the end of the result. A lot of people may have expected Asuka to get the Duke, but the face breaker ended up getting the win. So they're turning, as we alluded to in part one of our coverage here. Nia Jax came away with the victory. Rock, what do you think about that?
I mean, she had some major heat coming off the Becky Lynch thing. The fans in California booed her out of the building.
Oh, yeah.
And they definitely showed their displeasure for Nia Jax. And you know what? To Nia Jax's credit, she ate it all up. She was like, bring it on. Bring on the hate. It's fine. This is what I do. And, I mean, for her to win the match after doing that, I mean, I guess that's a definitive statement that says she's not in the doghouse, right?
I would say so. Or they see money in it over punishing her. But they push and unpush or whatever, or pull back, whatever you want to call whatever when WWE cools on somebody. They do that constantly, so maybe her pullback will happen at some sort for it. But right now is probably smart to do that. She has major heat. She's going into a match with Ronda Rousey at the TLC pay-per-view, which is you want, if clearly, and we'll talk about this in the Ronda match, clearly the fans are not liking the monster push of Ronda. She's going to have a lot of her fans and stuff, but a lot of them are starting to boo her. Well, you want to have somebody who's getting booed more to face Ronda. This is the smart move. So
yeah, they're pushing Ronda to be a big face, but she did not get a very good reception at the show. But we'll get into that.
Or I think the reason they gave Nia Jax the belt, is that what she did? Is because Vince McMahon,
she won the match.
Vince McMahon's probably afraid that she's going to punch him in the face, and she's just going to go in the back and just start sucker punching everybody, and everybody's like, "Did you see what she just did to that girl's face? We don't want that, so let her win." That's what they probably were saying. So.
Oh, you're probably right, Jester.
She's